Hi, I'm Michael Correa, and this is Psych Exam Review. In the past few videos, we've looked at how Freud's ideas relate to personality and personality development. In this video, I'd like to take a look at how Freud's ideas influenced the next generation of theorists. And these are the Psychodynamic Theorists, or the Neo-Freudians. Now, these Psychodynamic Theorists shared a lot of common ground with Freud, but they disagreed on some of the details. So, two things that they shared were they believed that unconscious influences were fundamental for understanding behavior, and they also believed that early childhood experiences were important for shaping personality. So the first theorist that we'll look at is Alfred Adler, and here's a picture of Adler almost dabbing here. And Adler disagreed with Freud when it came to his emphasis on sex and aggression. So Adler thought that while we do have sexual and aggressive drives, that these weren't the most important aspects of understanding personality. And so he placed emphasis on social tensions. And he thought that our social tensions had the potential to create things like an inferiority complex. Or, on the positive side, it could create a strive for superiority. All right, next we'll look at Karen Horney. And here's a picture of Horney here. And Horney disagreed with Freud in that she felt some of his theories were overly male-centric. In particular, his suggestion that all females experienced penis envy as an important part of their normal development. And so, in contrast to this idea, Horney proposed the idea of womb envy. And this is the idea that men are jealous of women because women have the ability to give birth and bring new life into the world. And she thought that this could create unconscious fears or drives in men that would cause them to want to dominate or disparage women. Okay, lastly, we'll look at probably the most famous of the Neo-Freudian psychodynamic theorists, and this is Carl Gustav Jung. And here's a picture of a young Jung. And like Adler, Jung disagreed with Freud in his emphasis on sexual and aggressive drives. And what Jung proposed instead was an emphasis on people's aims and aspirations. He thought these were the more important drives motivating behavior. And unlike Adler, who emphasized social tensions, Jung believed that the focus of conflict should be considering the conflict within the individual, rather than conflict with society or conflict with reality. Now, Jung is also known for a few other concepts, and probably the most famous of these is his idea of a collective unconscious. And so the idea of a collective unconscious is that not only do we have our own unconscious, which contains wishes, desires, and fears, but that there's also a shared form of the unconscious that everyone has, and this is the collective unconscious. And so it contains things that we would all recognize. It contains universal symbols, motifs, and memories that have been passed down through generations. And so they're shared by all humans. And one example of something that will be in the collective unconscious is the idea of an archetype. And so archetypes refer to these universal motifs that present ideas like devils, heroes, tricksters, and sages, and that these are sort of archetypal characters that people all over the world could recognize, and that we would find these in stories and in literature, and we could immediately recognize these presentations, even though they might vary slightly from culture to culture, that they would still be universal, so that One way you could think about archetypes is if you think of really popular films like Star Wars or popular Disney movies like The Lion King, and the idea that people from many different cultures could see these stories and identify the heroes and the devils and trickster characters, because these, Jung would say, are part of the collective unconscious that we all share. Okay, so this is a basic introduction to some of these other psychodynamic theorists, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, as most introductory classes don't, but maybe this is something that I can come back to and talk about in future videos, and we will come back to some of the psychodynamic ideas when we talk about treatment in a future unit. Okay, I hope you found this helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks for watching.